Hello and welcome to Slow Pit Stop, the international Formula One podcast by fans for fans all around the world. My name's Arafat, and as always, joining me is my co-host Mohammed. Say hi, Mohammed.
Hi, Mohammed.
And some of you may have noticed that after the Belgian Grand Prix, we've not had an episode out. We've both been very, very busy. It's like a busy time in the year in the UK and the USA for doctors changing jobs, changing hospitals. I've had lots of night shifts. Mohammed's had lots of night shifts. But I promise you this episode will be well worth the wait. See what I did there, Mohammed? Worth the wait.
Yes, we'll talk about that because I want to talk about what weight means in Formula One. But just a real quick thing, Arafat, you said that it's a busy time in the UK and the US, which it is. But in the UK, do they ever say, don't go to a hospital in July? Because they say that here in America all the time because of all the new doctors that are coming in.
Yeah, it's August here. It's the first Wednesday of August we change over. And we know you're potentially at more risk of harm in a hospital in that time. Not because people are negligent, but because everybody has rotated to a new hospital,
They're all
a new computer system.
Yeah.
They're all in a new place. So people tend to do the correct things, but slower because they're trying to figure out systems. And so when people act slower, there is a potential for harm.
Yeah, okay, I get that. Yeah, I'm at a new hospital too, and it takes me so long just to figure out how to order things. It's so frustrating. So I understand. Okay, that's my side note. This is our listeners get a little peek into the life of medicine once again. Okay, into the episode. Worth the wait. Really, only one thing happened in Spa that mattered, right, Arfat?
Yeah. So George Russell somehow decided to drive a one-stop strategy, ended up crossing the line first. I'm being careful with my language. He crossed the line in first place. He was then found to be underweight and disqualified, handing the win to Lewis Hamilton. Now, Lewis Hamilton qualified higher. He led so much of the race. He seemed to be on the correct strategy. George Russell took a gamble. The gamble paid off, kind of, and he ended up ahead. Lewis was trying to get ahead of George, but just couldn't for a variety of reasons, aerodynamics, etc. And we went from feeling elated to heartbroken. But now, technically, Lewis is he the only person that's won more than one race that isn't Max Verstappen?
Yeah, it's actually crazy if you think about it that way. He's the only person to win more than one race this season other than Max. And I really thought Charles Leclerc or Lando Norris or one of them would have got it. But no, it's just him.
Yeah. I think post, whatever it was, Monaco or somewhere, wherever it was, I think we've been having a really good season. I think the first 4, 5, 6 races were Verstappen. But since then, it's been a really good season.
And we'll do a proper mid-season breakdown to talk about that shift. But, I don't understand, every race now that we watch, you get the feeling that Max isn't just going to sail away into the sunset, that there might actually be competition at the very least with McLaren. Speaking of McLaren, what do you make of their race? Fastest car, didn't utilize it. What do you think?
I can't even remember. I just remember being so.
Okay,
what happened? You tell me.
What do you make of? I don't remember what happened with them either. They're just it was Lando is in third for forever, and then second, and then Verstappen passed or something like that. But the point is, how are they not capitalizing?
Yeah, Lando had a terrible race. Now I remember.
Yes.
Lando had a terrible race. He made lots of mistakes. He made mistakes on the first lap, and he ruined it for himself.
Yes.
I think Piastri is showing himself to be the stronger driver. And this whole idea of Lando challenging Max, I think Max will win the Drivers' Championship. I know the McLaren drivers had such an outside chance, but I think Lando is a bit too rough. He's not nailing, to win in an inferior car, you have to be perfect. And, I think back to 2012 when Fernando almost won in an inferior Ferrari compared to Vettel's Red Bull. And he just kept nailing, podium after podium after podium. He didn't necessarily win, but he was getting all the points for so many podiums and just doing really, really well. Until the last race when he just got unlucky. But Lando needs to be capitalizing more. He should be on the podium all the time. And he was. He's had so many podiums this year. But he needed to do better this race, I think. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
That's where it's at. Now, kind of the big topic. Neither of us obviously are like aerospace engineers, so we don't know that much about aerodynamics. But George Russell is disqualified because he's a little bit underweight. They're saying it's maybe the fuel. They expected a safety car. Maybe the plank was a little bit less, whatever it is. Do you really think that gave him the edge in speed? And that's why he's able to stay ahead of Lewis? That's really, I feel like,
So, my understanding, George weighed less than he was expected to weigh.
yeah.
The plank was a bit worn down. They
Mm-hmm.
couldn't pick up marbles on the tires, which they normally do on the last lap.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think the tires wearing down was significant because other people did a one-stop strategy. So I think it was plank, and I think George lost more weight than they expected him to
Mm.
through dehydration, through working hard. You remember, like he's a very sweaty driver, George. He thought it was raining once when it was just the sweat on his own face. So I think all of that. So I don't think at the start of the race, I know a lot of people got very upset about this on Twitter. They're like, you carry the weight advantage through the whole race. But I think they would have started at an appropriate weight. If George hadn't sweated
Mm-hmm.
so much or had been wearing clothing that had kept the sweat in rather than letting it evaporate,
Yeah.
he would have weighed. So I remember when I was at McLaren,
Mm-hmm.
I sat down to have a meeting with an engineer whose name I've forgotten. Fill for space while I try and remember this guy's name. McLaren
so,
engineer.
so the way I was thinking of it is, I know that weight does have an advantage. They're going to definitely have started them all on the same weight. But towards the end, Lewis rides up to the back of George, and he's going so much faster than him in the laps leading up to it. It's reminding me of Brazil 2022 when George won the other race and Lewis couldn't get around him. And I know they said, oh, he had damaged him, but I just could not come up with a reason with why Lewis couldn't get ahead of George. I mean, you could argue, oh, skill maybe, but there's such a large tire differential. He's on a newer tire and George is on a much, much older tire that you would think that Lewis can get around them. But he really only got like maybe 2 attempts at it, and then he just couldn't. And so to me, it makes sense at the end that the weight differential was what caused George to have that little bit of pace and kept him at. I mean, that's the reason why the minimum weight exists. I know part of it is safety, but it's also because they don't. Well, it is because of safety. They don't want them like jettisoning all this extra safety stuff in order to be faster. So there is a correlation between the weight and the speed. But it's always frustrating when you see Lewis get right behind George and not able to pass him. And those last few laps were so devastating. They were as devastating as the last few laps of Silverstone were like anxiety prone. Like I was just so devastated to not watch Lewis get ahead of George, and I couldn't believe that I was gonna
Yeah,
watch George
it was
win the
really
race. Like I
sad.
literally turned it off before George crossed the finish. I couldn't watch it.
Yeah. I know I didn't watch the last lap. Well, the last bit as well. I found a picture of the engineer I was talking about, and I'm
Okay.
surprised because I have a mental image of him, but his hair is all white now. He looks a lot older, and he's in a Red Bull outfit. So this is Phil Prue.
Did you
So
work
he
with
used
him?
to be at McLaren. Yeah,
Yeah.
so he used to be at McLaren, and then he went to Mercedes in 2016, and then at some point he's clearly gone to Red Bull.
Hmm.
So his name is Phil Prue. So I remember sitting down with him in an office opposite Ron Dennis's office,
This is
and
incredible.
he was talking about, we need a driver's weight to be predictable. We will run the car to the absolute minimum. We will cross the finish line with no more than we need. But to do that, we need to be predictable.
Hmm.
If we put the drivers into clothing where the sweat evaporates,
Hmm.
we need to know how much is going to evaporate, or we need none of it to evaporate, so we know exactly how much is going to be there. Because the drivers will
Wow.
lose 1, 2, 3 kilos per race, right?
Hmm.
And so the performance side of it, Dr. Hinsa et al., they were like, well, we want them to sweat as much as possible, let it all away, keep their core temperature down, it improves performance.
Hmm.
And the engineers were like, but you're never able to tell us how
Yeah.
much they're
How
actually going
much?
to lose. So how do we, because if we know the driver's going to lose 2 kilos,
Hmm.
we'll make sure that, we have an extra 2 kilos on the car. But
Hmm.
if you say the driver's going to lose 2 kilos and we've only put 1 kilo on the car, we're going to be
Yeah.
underweight. But likewise, we don't want to put 3 kilos on the car if the driver's only going to lose 2, because it means for the whole race we've been carrying an extra kilo
Extra.
around.
fine to the line as everybody else at the end of the race? Like, how close are they to the minimum weight? Do you understand my
As close
question?
as they can possibly get. Yeah,
Wow,
as
that's
close as they can
incredible.
possibly get. So,
That's crazy. That's crazy.
and so this isn't just now. This is like since, when did I have that conversation with him? 2009, 2010, something like that.
Yeah.
So that was the breakdown. And, we tried to break it down. Nowadays, it'll be so much easier than what the hell I was doing. I was using like Excel and SPSS and all these things. Nowadays, with AI, you could do these sums. But I was trying to look at all these different variables, how intense the track is. So we knew faster corners made people sweat more. The weather, it being Singapore or whatever, that kind of stuff. So we tried to divide tracks into low weight loss, medium weight loss, high weight loss based on how much a driver would sweat. I can 100% imagine a scenario where George Russell would lose too much weight. Because when I was there at McLaren and I used to look at the charts, Jenson Button used to do everything that was asked for him. They were sponsored by Lucozade, which is GSK, the drug company. Would give them all these isotonic drinks. And Jenson Button would do everything that was asked of him and would lose a very predictable amount of weight each race. Lewis Hamilton, who was young and was like, I can compensate for everything with my driving skill. You looked at his graph and it was all over the place like this.
Wow.
Like, it was so hard to know how much weight Lewis was going to lose. I suspect with time, Lewis has become a more predictable person. He's made loads of changes to his diet and everything.
Yeah.
But I can see why, how challenging it is. And it just takes one race where you're suddenly 2-3 kilos lower than you thought you would be.
Yeah.
Maybe doing the one stop wasn't so much about wearing the tires down, but was a much more physical effort for George Russell.
Yeah.
And therefore he sweat and lost a lot more sweat. So I think he would have started at normal, but as the race went on and he was sweating it all away, he would have had a potential weight advantage. But then you have to offset that by going, well, if he's lost so much sweat, what is that actually doing to his performance? If he's dehydrated, if he's now sweat so much he's unable to sweat anymore and his core temperature is rising. So it's very difficult to say if he had an advantage or not, but I'm glad he got disqualified.
I am once again reminded of how jealous I get listening to your stories of being at McLaren when Lewis Hamilton was at McLaren. I know I didn't know anything about Formula One back then. I was here in the United States, but you should have dragged me with you to McLaren
You were
headquarters.
like 10 years old at that point in time.
I wasn't 10, but I was close to 10. I was very young. I was very little.
Yeah.
I would not have understood what you were doing.
What was I going to say? The thing that I've been thinking about is, because a lot of people are upset at George for coming up with a strategy for himself and forcing a strategy. And Lewis was like, my team didn't tell me he was doing that.
Yeah.
I don't know why my team somehow managed to get him in front. I saw the other day, my dad's gone back on Twitter, and he was tweeting,
Nice.
being like, look how well McLaren handled it last week. They knew how to swap their drivers around. What's wrong with Mercedes? And I was like, lols.
Well, your dad is on Twitter. I need to find him on Twitter. Continue your story.
Yeah, so it was that. My dad's tweeting is so good. But it was that kind of thing. And so, yeah, then I was thinking about George Russell and Lewis Hamilton being so upset at how the team handled the situation. And I don't know, what do you think about it? Do you think George is a snake?
No. I mean, okay, well, first of all, yes, George is always a snake. As we've established, and as I've paid the consequences for, I hate George. So I'll never walk that back. However, he was in the car and he realized he could make a one-stop work and he requested it. So I can't fault him for that. As much as I want to, it was the right move for him. And it was the right move for Mercedes to allow him to, because worst case scenario, Lewis overtakes him and they still have a 1-2. It's frustrating as a Lewis Hamilton fan that the team didn't convey that information to Lewis, but at the same time, the team has no reason to either. They want their drivers on two different strategies in case one of them goes wrong, the other one can make it through, right? That's always how it is. So I can understand. It's just frustrating as a Lewis Hamilton fan to watch him qualify higher for the first time in so long, to do the better race, to get past the drivers, to do the pit stop better than Lando, to get the lead, to have the net lead, and to be guaranteed the win only to watch your own teammate screw that up. So I was frustrated on his behalf, but I can't be angry at George Russell for doing what was in his best interest.
Yeah.
But I will be because I'm a hater. I'm a certified hater, and I hate George Russell.
I was reading this interesting thing about, George's risk-taking thing and division in the garages. Like, the whole unit is not working. There was more harmony when Valtteri was there. Now, Valtteri said, until the last year he was racing at Mercedes, he always believed he could beat Lewis. He was just like, I'm just probably not training enough, or I need to do this, or if I just work a bit harder, I can do it. And he said it was the final year that he was there that he accepted, no matter what I do, I cannot beat Lewis.
Yeah.
But despite him all that time before wanting to beat Lewis, the team was just more harmonious. So in terms of the two sides of the garage working against each other and things, I read a theory that it comes from George Russell feeling insecure in his position, because word on the street is his contract takes him till like 2026. Kimi Antonelli is likely to come in and be given a matching contract at the end of 2026. Mercedes are very openly, very, very, very openly trying to ask Max Verstappen to come across. And they're going to be like, hey, we're going to have these best engines. Like, the way everyone's like, the rumors are Mercedes have the best engines. Like, who knows this? How could anyone possibly know at this stage who has the best engine? Genuinely, right? And everyone's like, oh, Carlos Sainz is waiting for Alpine to see if they get Mercedes engines. Why? Like, I don't get it. Like, Red Bull could, in theory, build the best engine. All these rumors of Mercedes have the best engine, Mercedes have the best engine. Guarantee that's coming from Toto Wolff to try and trick Verstappen to coming across. I mean, they might have the best engine, but until they're on a racetrack racing each other and you can actually compare them,
how could
we possibly know?
You could not know.
Right. So I think all these rumors are coming from Toto Wolff, and he's trying to entice Verstappen across. George Russell knows that actually he's continuously having to audition for his job.
Yeah.
And they would bin him for Verstappen. Right?
Yeah.
It's not like other people like Lewis in the past where it was like, yeah, you can have a good year or a bad year, Rosberg can beat you, but here's a 500-year contract, please keep racing for us. Right? Russell knows this team is potentially his best ever shot at winning a championship. And 2 years from now, there's no reason why, if Antonelli does a lot better than him and Verstappen's suddenly available, he could be back at Williams.
Yeah, and you know what? Actually, it's so increasingly a possibility because of the way things are going. You think about like George was supposed to be, the chosen one coming in to replace Lewis Hamilton, to take the banner of the team onwards, and then it's just so tough to know whether he's actually lived up to that.
I'm not saying he isn't. He's clearly a very good driver.
Yeah,
but he's a very, very good driver.
We've seen now that there are better drivers. That's the thing.
I think he's a very good driver at a time in Formula One where there's a lot of very good drivers.
Yeah, exactly.
Which means his position is not secure.
He is, if we were going to do tiers, and maybe we'll do this in our midseason recap, but the tiers, the drivers, S tier, I would put Lewis and Max. And then A tier, I would put him, but I'd also put Oscar, and I'd also put Lando, and I'd also put Alex Albon. And you're right. It's a saturated field. Charles Leclerc. Yeah. It's a saturated field. Especially if Kimi Antonelli is coming in and he's supposed to be the next S tier driver, then then that's it for George, because he's guaranteed a Mercedes seat, and then George is going to be fighting. George is going to be fighting for his seat to stay. And I kind of get it. And the thing is, I really don't think Lewis cares. I mean, for the first few, up until the car was winning, he did not care. He made it very obvious. He didn't care where he finished. He didn't care how his race went. He was just trying to ride the season out. I think when he realized that he could actually perform, he started to care a little bit. It seems like he was annoyed with the strategy, but ultimately I still don't think he cares that much. I really think that he's looking to Ferrari, he's looking to his move, he's looking to adapting in the team, and that's really his priority. And honestly, as fans, I really think that's where my priorities too. Even if he finishes I think P3 is reasonable for him. I think it'll be Max, Lando, and then maybe Lewis. But even if he finishes P3, it's okay, whatever. We're looking to Ferrari now. We're looking for the next championship. Yeah.
Speaking of the future, there's been a lot of leadership changes in Formula One.
I wonder why.
While the summer break has been happening. Lots of
Yeah.
people. So Andrea Stella got confirmed his contract being extended at McLaren. Binotto is in as like CEO and chief nerd at Audi, and Jonathan Wheatley, the guy that was supposed to become team principal at
Yeah,
Red
that's
Bull when
so
Christian Horner was,
strange.
so
Continue.
he's
Yeah.
going across to Audi. So it makes
That's
sense. I think he's like the
insane.
James Vals. Like James Vals was
Hmm.
being groomed to be a Toto replacement. He
Hmm.
realized that wasn't happening, so he moved somewhere else with
Yeah.
Mercedes' blessing. So I think the same has probably happened for Wheatley. He's like, hey, look, this opportunity's come up. Christian's not going to move aside. So I think Christian's probably happy because he's like, if I remove this guy who
Yeah.
is potentially competition,
Hmm.
then the board have less of a reason to get rid of me,
So
right?
Jonathan Wheatley's
So
going to Audi, right?
yeah,
Yeah. But so
and
is
then
Mattia
Binotto.
Binotto. And
Yeah,
they're gonna
so
share the
Binotto's
role.
going. Yeah, Binotto's going as chief technical officer, which was
Mhm.
his role at Ferrari once upon a time. And I think that would be a good one for him because he's like a big nerd. I think he knows how to build a
Mhm.
car. But someone else with like Red Bull Slytherin vibes can do the political side of things.
That's what we
And
discussed
then
on our episode, and they listened to us, and that's why they did that. For the record.
yeah, and then Alpine have said their new team principal is going to be a 36-year-old Oliver Oakes, who leads the
Wild.
high-tech team that runs in F2 and F3. So that's kind of like how Christian Horner came into Formula One, because he used to be the boss of a Formula 3 team, and he came in, I think he was 34, 36 or something like that. So this started a whole bunch of rumors because the high-tech team has business
Corporate sponsors.
associations with Uralkali and that, what's his name? Mazepin. So they're like, oh
Marzipan.
my god, is Mazepin going to race at Alpine? I'm pretty sure that's all nonsense, and
He might.
he will not be back.
I hope not.
Hashtag
But
that. Yeah.
but it's like, why is Alpine going through so much upheaval? Why have they brought Oliver Oakes in? Were they really not happy with? I don't even know who their current team.
Bruno Firmin.
Bruno. I don't even know. I still remember Sorel a bit So that's the last guy I remember being in charge of that team. But yeah, it was. I mean, like, it was really. I don't think it's a team principal issue really with Alpine. I think it's a team engineer, chief technical officer issue.
Too many cooks because they've got a funny structure where the racing team is in Enstone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Remember my photos from when I went there and visited, and
didn't bring me along.
Renault,
yeah, I remember.
Yeah, Renault and the engineering and the engine side of things are in France.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bit like the problems Haas is having, where some of its structure was in the USA, some of it was in Italy.
Yeah.
And so Gunther was all over the place, and they're like, actually, we need more than one person to do this. So I don't know. Sometimes being unusual can become a strength, or it can be a weakness, and it's sadly for Alpine right now, it seems to be a weakness, but hopefully they can turn it around.
I know. It's insane that their last podium... Actually, no, I think they had a win with Esteban Ocon. Never mind, I take it back. I was going to say their last podium was with Daniel Ricciardo, but no, it wasn't. They had a win with Esteban in Hungary, 2021. So that was good for them, back when he raced with Fernando.
But I was thinking about the leadership of these different teams.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I was thinking is, people always do stuff online, like, if the drivers were vegetables, what vegetables would they be?
Orange.
If the drivers were this, what would they be? Blah, blah, blah. And so I thought, okay, what if we did it backwards? Since we're talking about leaders and things, what if we went down the constructors, and if we were to pick a team principal for each of the team from my favorite TV show, The US Office, which US Office character would be the team principal?
Oh, this is so exciting. I'm so ready to do this. Oh my god, this is going to be great. Let's go. Who's up first?
Right, so we'll start we'll go down the
Drivers'
constructors table. So number one is Red Bull, for this year. So Red Bull's in first place. Red Bull, team principal, I'm saying Michael Scott, because Christian Horner gives off that real, like, I'm a sleaze, I want everyone to think I'm really funny, I want to be in front of the camera all the time, I want to be the center of attention.
Yes, definitely,
and remember,
100%.
Michael Scott, like, every now and again they throw in an episode where Michael Scott like goes and does a sale, and he's like really good at
incredible,
it. Whether it's the conference that he goes to and he gets Hammermill on board, or whether it's that other big sale that he gets or
At
whatever.
Outback
They always bring
Steakhouse.
him in as
Yeah.
yeah. So you forget that he's supposed to be good at his job, but he's just like a buffoon as well. So I think Christian Horner is very good at his job,
Hmm.
but has all this like buffoonery around him as well. So I think Michael Scott would fit in at Red Bull and be that
I like
person.
that. I like that too. All right, who's next?
McLaren.
So I'm gonna go. I'm say Zach Brown is the Jim of the show. Would you
Yeah.
agree? Yeah, I think and
Yeah.
I think it's more about the brand that McLaren offers. It's like the cool brand. It's the swagger brand. It's what everyone relates to. It's everyone wants is the McLaren. And Zach Brown really, he really shows that. He also goes and ruins relationships the way Jim ruined, Pam's relationship with her first fiance, Zach Brown, and
Yeah.
his
I
junior
like the way he
drivers.
lies behind people's back.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
like Zach Brown is like, oh, Theo Percher, you want a race seat? Here's one. You don't drive for us anymore. Oh yeah, actually you
exactly,
do. Oh no, you don't drive for us
exactly.
anymore. Will they? Won't they? Will they? Won't they?
Yes,
That's very
exactly.
much in
I
Jim's
think
world.
so. Yeah. Is the next one
So
Mercedes
that
or no?
no, the next one is Ferrari. So Ferrari
Oh,
is Pam.
yeah, I
I'll
agree.
tell you
Like
why.
really pragmatic. Okay,
Because
give me.
because Ferrari are like, yeah, we're one of the main characters. Ferrari is Formula One. There is no Formula One without Ferrari. Blah blah blah. But at the same time, you look at Pam's performance. Everything that she tries, she keeps like not quite finishing and executing the win. So when she went to art school, she failed. When
Yeah,
she became a sales person,
she couldn't
she had
do
to
it.
drop out because she wasn't getting any sales. Her art stuff, she started and then abandoned. She keeps like starting these new things. I'm like, this is the project, and then she abandons it, and then starts a new project and abandons it.
She also crushes
So
people's
I think,
dreams the way Ferrari crushes people's dreams.
yeah,
Crushing
yeah,
Jim's dream of not letting him move to Pittsburgh or Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, whatever, and do that big
and
job.
then Ann Perkins' dream of marrying Jim,
Yeah. And
Karen,
Ferrari
that was
crushes.
her name.
Yeah, Karen Fittipaldi.
Yeah,
Fittipaldi. That's not her
but
name, but that's what I
not
remember.
Fittipaldi, Filippelli. She could
Karen
have been a
Fittipaldi.
Fittipaldi,
She
to be
could have been.
fair.
And then okay, is now Mercedes because Mercedes
Now
there's
it's
only
Mercedes.
one person Toto Wolff can be. Dwight Schrute.
100%. Yeah,
Has to be
exactly. I
Dwight
was
Schrute.
thinking the exact same thing. Dwight Schrute. It's the way, like, Dwight is weird about his, like, cans of food and his survival gear and all that.
Yeah.
Like Toto, every night for dinner, because he's like, I have to reduce my cognitive load so I can only make the important decisions. He has a roast chicken breast and a mozzarella salad
Wow.
every night for dinner. That's his one thing. So he doesn't have to decide what to have for dinner. It's the same dinner every night.
Oh my
Like,
god.
that feels like a Dwight thing to do.
Yeah. But it's just also like when Dwight gets in charge, he runs the team with like calculator like efficiency, right? Like he's like a software,
Yeah.
a machine. And that's how Toto Wolff runs Mercedes. He's very calculating about everything and
Yeah. And there's
definitely and they're
also
both German.
the line is there. No, Michael, no.
Yes, Michael. Yes,
Michael.
that's perfect. Up until now,
Right.
we've made them fit 100%. I can't promise that for the rest
Exactly.
of the other 6 teams.
Right. Aston Martin, okay? Who could fit into a team that has managed to poach Alonso and has now managed to poach
Adrian Newey.
Adrian Newey? Oh, actually, this makes sense. This is Karen.
Yeah.
Because Karen took staff away
Yeah,
to
yeah.
was it the Utica
Yeah.
branch?
Yep.
And then she came after
I think
Stanley.
so.
She came after Stanley, didn't she?
Yeah, she came after Stanley. She almost got him. I think that the other person, well, I guess Lance Stroll is more like Andy Bernard, the guy with the like famous family, but
Because he comes from a rich parent. Yes.
yeah. And he's like bad at his job, but he has his job just kind of because he like went to Cornell because he had money.
Lance Stroll is Andy.
Yeah, but no, I agree. I think Karen is really good at her job, and she was kind of transformative in her role to the extent that she actually left and became manager somewhere else and did really good at that other place. So
Toy Story 4.
think that I actually haven't seen Toy Story 4, believe it or not.
Really? That's why she left The Office. No, that's why she left Parks and Rec. She left Parks and Rec a season early because she was the writer for Toy Story 4. That's how long these things take to make.
What?
Like, you think about when Parks and Rec finished and when Toy Story 4 came out, she was
I didn't
offered
know
to write
that.
Toy Story 4, so she left Parks and Rec. Yeah.
I had no clue. Wow, that's crazy. But yeah, I think Karen Fittipaldi is definitely whoever the team principal is. I don't who runs Aston. I know it's not Lawrence Stroll.
Lawrence. That is.
Okay, Lawrence Stroll. He's the team principal.
Yeah, I've decided.
Okay.
Right. What about RB?
Oh man.
Who's a mini Michael?
Well, I was gonna say like early seasons Dwight is a little bit of a mini Michael.
Oh no, yeah, this could be Dwight actually, because they're assistant to the Red Bull.
Yeah. But early seasons Dwight, before he gets better at
Early
his job.
season Dwight.
Later seasons Dwight is Toto Wolff. Early seasons Dwight is
What
assistant to the Red Bull.
What about Mose? Cousin Mose. Maybe Cousin Mose is RB, assistant to the Red Bull.
No, Cousin Mose is like, I don't even know. Is there somebody in the grid that just does? Cousin Mose is what Danica Patrick used to be when she was on the grid, like doing the interviews. Nobody liked her. Yeah.
Yeah, early season Dwight is RB, assistant to the Red Bull. I like that. Yeah. Haas is a tricky one. Haas is a team that exists in 3 different places: the UK, America.
No, I think Haas is very clearly Creed. They're like a fan favorite,
but Creed is Alpine.
How?
Because Creed is just chaos. And so much of real Creed, like, you watch the best Creed material is all in, the stuff that got cut. Yeah. So you don't even get to see the best of Creed. But Creed is so much better than you actually even know him. You know the extended episodes where they like put in all the deleted scenes? Yeah. All the best Creed stuff, for whatever reason, ended up on the cutting room floor.
Well, but I think Alpine should be Ryan, because Alpine is like, the overthink it, we're going to dream big and then utterly fail. Wolf was going to be the big thing. And Alpine had all these ideas they're going to be the big thing, and it just completely falls flat.
Keeps going wrong, and then they keep reinventing.
And they just keep failing, like in more and more. And they keep losing. They keep bleeding this talent the way Ryan just could not hold anything together. So
I'll give you that. That's fine. And then, fine. So Williams?
Ooh.
I think Williams is Kevin, because it's like lovable, but not a threat in any way.
But James Vowles is like, calculating. He thinks he can get it done. Maybe he has
Oscar.
Yeah, I think Oscar actually. Oscar, because remember Oscar had the idea at the like national press conference or whatever, where he's like, I know how to save the company, but then he just didn't have.
Yeah, but then he went so quiet and just like didn't have the confidence.
But I think that's kind of like James Vowles. Like he has the knowledge set to potentially do something great, so we just have to wait to see if it happens. I would say Oscar is James Vowles.
Oscar to Williams, and then finally Sauber.
Meredith. Right? Just party
I was going to
time.
say Meredith or Kelly, because like Sauber Kelly have the best social media. There's like so connected. And I think like, if The Office existed at a time when social media was bigger, then Kelly Kapoor would be the person that was all over social media and know every like TikTok trend and all of that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And Sauber are the people that are like, we can't do our job, but we have the best TikTok channel.
Yeah,
and I think that's Kelly
Forget
Kapoor.
Meredith. It has to be Kelly. It is definitely Kelly Kapoor. Yeah. For sure.
So
that's pretty good.
That's who I think
I like that game.
Leaders would be.
Yeah.
Shall we go to bed then?
We will go to bed. Bye, everybody. This is not the white power symbol. This is A-OK. A-OK.
A-OK.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah. We'll see you maybe next week for another episode.
Yeah, I don't know when the races are happening again, so eventually there will be another race and we'll do an episode for that too.
I guarantee we'll be on nights. Like, should we check, right? The next race is the Dutch Grand Prix, right?
When is it? The 26th?
Dutch Grand Prix is the 20th.
Man.
What?
I may actually
swimming
be
lesson
on
9 a.m.
Nice. You're going to learn how to swim, finally, after 35 years. I'm so happy for you.
Not for my 3-year-old, just me, by myself, with all the other 3-year-olds.
I'm on emergency coverage, so I could get called into the ICU or to a night shift. We'll see. Roll the dice.
#lols. Cool. Yeah. Well, you have fun.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.